Bucky good in the ball. Santel all the way to the basket. Foul. Lays it in for two.
Hey, good morning, basketball fans. Welcome to another season of Wayne Fingerlakes High School basketball here on Fingerlakes 1. It's the Upstate Hoops Podcast here. I'm Jim Sinicropi inside the all-new FingerLakes1.com studios on the third floor of the North Park building in Seneca Falls, New York. We're live here on November 26, 2017. It's our season premiere, and new season's already underway. We had some games on Friday and Saturday. I have Zac Young, Lyons head coach, in studio. Kevin Korzeniewski, new Mynderse varsity boys head coach, will be joining us shortly. And we're going to talk about what's new for the upcoming season. We're going to preview all the boys' leagues in the East, West, and Wayne County. We're going to reveal our live webcast schedule, our Week 1 power rankings, and take a look at the games ahead for the first full week. So a lot to get to. The Upstate Hoops Podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Fingerlakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank, with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. They're online at mygenbank.com, and, of course, by Dr. Rod Littlejohn, delivering over 30 years of smiles with style. So, good morning, Coach. How you doing, Zach?
Jim, I'm good. How are you?
Great. I mean, it's always a little intimidating for us this time of year with the whole season in front of us. You know, we put our schedule together, and that's a chore, and then we get everything in order, and then all of a sudden the games start, and we realize that we're kind of in it as long as it takes until the last team falls. And last year was crazy in terms of how many local teams went deep. You know, we had the Mynderse boys and girls both win sectional titles and advance to states. You had Wayne winning their first sectional title in school history in Class A2. And then you had the Gananda girls do well. South Seneca girls went all the way to the state Final Four. It was just a kind of a crazy postseason for us. So, but we're here to do it again. So let's talk about what's new for the upcoming season. First of all, there's a lot of coaching changes. First and foremost, the Mynderse job. Pat Prain and Nick Ciotti, co-coaches of the year last year. Nick Ciotti stepped aside. He's actually going to come onto our team and call some games for us on the color commentary side. And then Pat Prain took over. They win the sectional title. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons behind why Pat's not the head coach this year, but his good friend Kevin, who was with us for the past several years calling games here on Fingerlakes 1, is now taking over as head coach. Pat Prain's the assistant coach, and so together they have some continuity going in that program, and they should have another good team this year.
Yeah, both Mynderse grads. Kevin works right in the school. I think that's a huge plus when you can have a coach work directly in the school, and Pat's familiar with the kids. He's coached a lot of those kids in the summer and in AAU. So, talking, pretty good friends with both of them and talk with them. They're both pretty excited about the group they've got coming back, and the kids are working pretty hard so far in practice from what I've heard. And
we also, the other big shocker, I guess, was that Bob Haverilla is going to be coaching the JVs in Newark, and the JV coach
Henry
Caparis is now taking over the varsity job, and that was kind of a strange one because Haverilla's been a long time staple there.
Yeah, I mean, in talking with Bob, I actually student taught in Newark, and I know Bob and Henry both pretty well. And Bob had been telling me he was kind of a year to year, and I think he still has a huge passion for the game, and he'll still be a huge asset for their program, coaching JVs. Just the responsibilities of the varsity coach and his work schedule were a little much, so they're just going to kind of flip flop. Great situation for Coach Caparis, Newark grad, works in the school, and always great to have a veteran guy on your bench to help you out. And Coach Cervolo's still involved, and they have a longtime assistant, Matt Groot, who does a lot. So their coaching program is certainly very solid.
And then looking at Wayne County, what's some of the coaching changes in your league? I know that Brian Hoyt's back, but there's like extensive coaching changes.
Yeah, Brian Hoyt's back at North Rose. I mean, it's like over half our league has changed. There's a new coach at Williamson, Paul DeSanto, who I actually work with. He's a teacher at Lyons. His son is a senior on the Williamson team. Mark Michaels stepped down at East Rochester and actually retired. He was a longtime AD and basketball coach. Retired, and their JV coach, Pat Walsh, is now the head coach, also the varsity baseball coach. He's been their JV coach forever, very respected throughout the league, and very organized. I'm sure he'll do a good job. Red Creek has a new coach in Jeremy Hurlbert. He's stepping up and doing that after they had Jamie Grimshaw took over as an interim at the end of last year.
Right.
And I think that might be it. I don't know. There's been so many changes throughout the league. Might be missing one, but there's certainly a lot of new coaches both in the Fingerlakes East and in Wayne County.
Yeah, and I think the West has stayed pretty much solid, though. I don't think there's any changes in the West I know about.
Mike Broderick is coaching a Red Jacket.
Oh, right.
Longtime Canandaigua coach. I mean, not to date you, Coach Broderick, but when I was playing, you were coaching Canandaigua back in 1998. So he's coaching there, and he retired from Canandaigua and is in his first year there, and it's brand new. We scrimmaged them, actually. He was very excited about the group of kids he had, and I know that Kevin scrimmaged them as well. I think he's a fantastic coach, just watching him. I don't really know him that well personally. I got to know him a little bit during our scrimmage, but every time I've watched them, well-prepared, organized, and does a good job in preparation.
So, just yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, there's an article in the DNC about how Section 5 is now re-upped with the Blue Cross Arena, so all the championship games are going back to the Blue Cross, where, remember, last year they were scattered, just Class B and a couple of A classes. Like Wayne actually had to play in Fairport in Class A2. But now they're all coming back per usual, except for the Ds that are going to be down in Alfred. And the girls will be at Rush Henrietta with the D girls at Letchworth, I believe. So it's kind of getting back to normal.
Are the Ds in Alfred?
The article itself was kind of a little confusing, but they mentioned Alfred, so I'm assuming it has to be. But I was thinking, geez, there's only 8 classifications this year. There's, 2 C classes?
There's 2 C classes, yeah. It was my understanding that they were all at the Blue Cross.
Well, I would hope so, because I think it's kind of unfair to the Ds to not be part of that championship weekend in Rochester.
Yeah, well, we already had, I know there's Clyde Savannah people out there, and if you can ask any of them in football, they had to travel all the way down to Alfred for their sectional final game. So,
right.
A lot of the schools in D are around that area, and just from some coaches I know down there, I talked with Eddie Orman at York. He said it was a fantastic environment when they play down there. But I still think there's something special about playing in the Blue Cross, and not every Class D school is from the southern tier area. So, but from my understanding, everything's back in the Blue Cross.
Well, that would be great, because from our perspective, it's very difficult when we got the championship games in the Blue Cross, and then the same day on the other side of the state we have the Class D. It's tough to do them both. So hopefully it is all back. I hope you're right, and it's good to have it back there in general. Anyways, it's something for the players, I think, to strive for, to try to make that final in the Blue Cross.
Yeah, I know last year, just from we didn't make it last year, but just I was at the games in Rush Henrietta for the C's, and there's a lot of neutral fans that just come, and they played the 3 games back to back to back, and they made the best of a difficult situation. But there was a point in time during the second semifinal game where if you wanted to come in and catch the end of that, you had to wait until the game was over, because it was at max capacity.
And the hallways and concourses are just jammed.
The parking lot at Rush Henrietta was crazy. So, there's not really an answer for some of those games, especially if you get a bigger school playing. You can't have every game at Fairport. You can't have Gates Chili, the girls uses, which is probably the biggest high school site. Rush Henrietta is a great site, I think, for the regionals.
Yep.
But for the finals, when you get a lot of those neutral fans that just want to come in and watch, it's really the only place that Section 5 has that can house it in a safe, orderly environment. And I know they've made as many changes as you can as far as security-wise, and there's a lot of additional costs that comes with having it there. But from a coach's standpoint, a fan, and as a player, it's special to play there. It's first class. I've played in some other locations as a coach where you're playing a big game, and the Blue Cross to me is just as nice, if not nicer, than anywhere else that we've played. So I really I look forward to going up there. It's a little nerve-wracking your first time going, but it's pretty organized, and the kids, that's their goal. Everybody wants to play in the Blue Cross, and it's a special day when you get to play there, win or lose.
Absolutely. Try to get to the big house. So it's kind of weird, too, this season so far. There's a little delay in the classifications being officially published for these teams. On the boys' side of things, is that do you have any insight into why that might be happening? Is it due to North Star Christian's placement, or are there other schools involved?
I know that they've sent out the classes 2 or 3 times and then kind of pull back. The last one, I believe there's an appeal. I'm not sure specifically of the school that's involved. I didn't ask. I'm not doing the appealing, so I didn't ask. I would guess that it's a combination of 1 or 3 schools. It could be UPrep, who is that charter school, and there was a big controversy last year. They wanted to be in B and end up in AA, and they lost a great game to Fairport in AA. And if they win that, they probably go to the finals of the state. Could be Bishop Kearney, who's lost some players. From what I've understood, I don't follow the city as much as I do the Wayne Fingerlakes, but with their best player transferred to Irondequoit, which is kind of the opposite what typically happens. Somebody transferring from a private to a public, and North Star, they're around the Class C's and the Class B schools, that they're where they put them, where the executive committee has placed them, has been up for debate. I know there's some coaches, especially in our league and in Livingston County, that have voiced their concern. Last I heard, they were in C1. So we'll see. It'll be settled by mid-December, I would assume. And there's just a process that Section 5 has to follow, and I'm sure that'll get out so that everybody has it, so that they can scout and do all that type of thing. I know CG Finney is in C2 as well, but I would guess that they would probably remain there.
One thing I don't like about this is kind of like, this particular school, like you say, Kearney or UPrep, they lose some players, and they're like, well, they're not going to be as good this year, so let's move them down to C. That always puts them at the top of the competition for their classification. Like Lyons, you got 2 years ago, you guys started rebuilding, and you had a 8-13 record maybe 2 years ago, and this year you came back, or last year you came back and had a winning season, and you got great expectations for this year, but you didn't get to move down to Class D when you were down, when your program was down. But these private schools and charter schools seem to be able to do that. They'll make the argument, well, look, we lost our top 3 scorers. We're not going to be that good. We got to move down to B this year. Or we got to move down to C. That just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, without getting in too much trouble, it's not fair. It's just, I'm a public school person. I think it should be Publix versus Publix. I've always thought that. One of my good friends at school, Eric Kuhn, lost a sectional title to a private school. We were lucky enough to beat a couple charter schools that one year, so it's just it's a tough thing. But I think Section 5, I'll give them a lot of credit in the last 10 years. When I was growing up, Bishop Kearney was always Class B, like always.
Yeah.
If you look at their record book, they probably won 8 out of 10 in a 10-year span. So at least they have the conversation now, and they're moving some of those schools up to try to make it more competitive. But my daughter's big into soccer now. So if you look at Aquinas in soccer, they won Class B state title, and they played all A and AA schools, and there's a lot of people that are upset about it. But they're making the best of a bad situation. I think Section 5, the executive committee and the classification committee, to try to make it more fair. But sometimes, you can make the argument that it's not always fair, for sure.
Yeah, so that's obviously something that we talk about a lot on this show, but I think it's an issue because when you talk about what might seem like a minor change in classification for a school, it can be the difference between a senior getting his one shot at playing in the Blue Cross Arena or winning that sectional title.
If you ask the kids from Gananda last year, they had a great run.
Yeah, lost in the finals,
lost to a private school who went to Glens Falls. So
yeah,
it's never happened to me yet. I'm sure it probably will if I keep coaching, but it's a tough pill to swallow when you lose to that type of team.
Well, hey, we're joined in studio now by the new Mynderse varsity head coach, Kevin Korzeniewski. Now, Korz, you remember the FL1 Sports team, one of the most popular, I think you're one of the most popular color guys that we had, and I think that maybe at least one of the most polarizing.
Polarizing for sure. Popular, I don't know about that.
So, you kind of broke my heart a little bit this year when you decided to get back into coaching. You used to coach with the Waterloo varsity boys, and I know you're excited to get back on the bench, and so congratulations on the job. And we talked right off the top that you and Pat are working together, so there's some continuity there in the program. But yeah, what was your thoughts behind getting back?
Well, I think I might be the first Fingerlakes one color man, or play-by-play for that matter, because I did do one play-by-play at the end of last year.
I know, and I was thinking we might transition you, but now
I that might be the reason why I locked up that Mynderse job was the play-by-play in the state game. Yeah,
you're calling Mynderse in the state regionals last year, and now you're coaching them this year.
Yeah, that's a little weird, It's but it's great because I got to get out and see that team a lot last year with the success that they had. Living in Seneca Falls and rooting for Mynderse as a local and also an alumni. So the kids a little bit on the surface, but you don't really get to know them like I have the past couple of weeks.
Right. Well, we're going to have fun calling your games this year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, we might be a little more critical.
I Coach Ciotti will now be on the other end of it, so, maybe he can be polarizing and popular.
It's become full circle. He'll
belittling me the entire time.
Well, I'm going to encourage him. To do that.
What goes around comes around, right?
So we were just talking about some of the changes here for the upcoming season, and one change that's really going to have a huge impact that maybe a lot of people don't know about is that Mike Dozier's score wire is no more. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. He's done. And, of course, that was the way that scores were reported and shared, and then the high scores and best stat lines of the games were reported. And you could get these results moments after the game ended. So unfortunately, he's done. So now Phil Abel, the webmaster for the Section 5 website, has created a new system for coaches to report scores, but it's going to be different, and you might not get the results till later that night across the board. So that's going to affect the way we cover things, and we want to hear from I actually talked to Phil Abel on the phone last night about this, and he developed a pretty good system. Coaches can text, email, or call in. You're covered. You can do it either way. And you can also share more information about the game than just the score if you want. And so we're connected in with him to get those results automatically forwarded to us via email every night. So we're going to do our best covering without Mike Dozier's score wire, but it will leave a hole. And then I'm also interested if any coaches out there in the Wayne Finger Lakes League specifically want a separate sort of reporting mechanism for Finger Lakes 1, because we cover the Wayne Finger Lakes League. So stay tuned for that. We might come up with something there.
Well, a big shout out, though, to Phil Abel. I'm sure Zach probably feels the same way. Our Section 5 website is the gold standard for high school basketball, and I
agree.
What we can do for scouting purposes and the fans that can get on and check scores, and it's great.
Right through sectionals. It's all.
The game started this weekend. I was on this morning. Zach informed me last night about some scores, and it's great that you have that access. It really is, and Phil Abel does an awesome job. So,
and in this, when Dozier retired, Phil Abel had to, on the fly, come up with this, and he has, and it's in place, and so we'll move forward this season with that new system, and everything should be fine.
Yeah, just to mention, if you're a basketball junkie, Phil also has every sectional bracket going back multiple years there. It's the state brackets, it was like a summer project him and a couple other guys did, so it's really cool. And he's a great guy, spends a lot of time on it, and like Kevin said, just a big shout out to him, and make sure all you coaches turn your rosters in on Microsoft Excel. Not on Google Sheets.
No, definitely not.
Microsoft Excel, he didn't like that.
Not what all these new guys are doing.
So, play is underway. There was a tournament in Warsaw. Red Jacket lost to Warsaw 77-45 in the opening round. Then they lost to Byron Bergen 45-44 in the consolation game last night. Red Creek's hosting the tournament. They defeated Hannibal 55-53 in overtime, and then lost in the title game last night to Phoenix 71-42. And then this week we got a full slate. We'll share that whole slate of games with you coming up here at the end of the show. But let's move ahead now and take a look at some of the leagues. Let's start with the Fingerlakes East. Now, what you're going to see on your screen here is our predictions. Okay, Fingerlakes 1 predictions for how it's going to finish in each of these leagues. It means nothing. It might give a little sneak peek into how the old power rankings are going to come up later in the show and release them. But Corsi, talk about the East. Now you're in it. You've been calling it and analyzing it and involved in it over the past several years. But now you're in it. And to be honest with you, Wayne, Newark, Mynderse. In the beginning of the year, I was like, Wayne, no doubt. Braden Zanilovic, the stud, now senior for Wayne, hurt his foot playing football. He's going to be out for a while, potentially the whole season, at least till January. And so that made a difference. But, just looking at that roster and specifically the three now juniors, Thompson, Blankenberg, and Carmichael, I still think they're the team to beat in the East. And then looking at Newark, he's like, well, geez, they got a coaching change. They lost their entire backcourt. It was Sharp and Beard, but they have DeAndre Saunders back, which was questionable if he'd be back. Well, he's back. They got Taylor Clements, now a senior. He seems like we've been covering him for almost a decade. And so I think that Saunders and Clements, 1-2, are going to be tough. And Newark's always going to have guards. So I'm not too worried. And then you look at Mynderse. Of course, you guys lost the player of the year in Jake Mean. You lost your starting backcourt in Anderson and Jones. So you lost a lot, and so I really think that it's going to be a 3-team race in the East. But I don't want to disparage Penn Yan, who's got a experienced senior laden team with Desmond Batten and Cabe Corbeau, and Bryce Burry's a senior in Mid-Lakes. Brian Miller's got some good things going in Geneva, and Derek Sluka's going to do his best to make sure Waterloo continues on a positive trajectory. Pell Mac, we didn't mention the coaching changes, but Dan Harris now coaching the girls for Pell Mac, and they really lost a lot. So what do you think about the East?
He asked me to preview the East, and then he did it for me.
No, I give you my preview.
That's what I usually do.
I want to hear Corsi's coach.
That's what I usually
coach speak
do.
now on the Fingerlakes East.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here's the deal with the Fingerlakes East and myself. I've never seen Penn Yan play, Jim. I've seen Wayne play once or twice in 3 years. I don't disagree with anything you said. Newark's got a great front court in Clements and Saunders. They always bring back guards. Nate Beard and Brian Sharp were great last year. They're going to be hard to replace. I don't know if they bring kids of that level caliber back, but it wouldn't be surprise me if they bring some JV kids up that are tough. Jim, we've talked about it, calling Newark for the past few years. It just seems to be, all of a sudden one great guard leaves from Collins, then Santel steps in and puts them on a great run, and then Nate Beard comes in and the sharpshooting Brian Sharp. So they always kind of replace, but that front court's going to be formidable. They're going to be big. They got a new coach, but the Newark never changes anything. They play man-to-man defense, and they run good motion set, and
Like to press.
Yeah, and so that's going to stay the same. But I hear a lot of great things about Penn Yan. I haven't seen Penn Yan play. I don't think since I stopped coaching 10 years ago. So I can't really speak a lot. I hear good things. I know they're a well-coached team. They're going to play hard. Wayne obviously is an A1 defending sectional champ. They bring back everyone from a really good team from last year, so I expect great things from them. And Waterloo should be better. Mid-Lakes has maybe arguably the best point guard in the league in Bryce Burry, and it's going to be a tough league.
It is.
It's a tough league. I look at it, and and it's daunting to look at those top 3-4 teams, and you throw, like you said, you throw Brian Miller's Geneva's team in there. They're going to bring their best at you. So
Akeem Hudson's junior, he's going to be a tough guy to deal with inside. And they do. Geneva's got a lot of talent. They're actually might be my sleeper this year as a team that might perform a lot better. We've kind of gotten used to, since Donahue and Junior Sims and Shane Sweeney have left Geneva, we've kind of gotten used to the fact that they're just not a factor anymore. I think this is the year that they might become a factor again.
Oh, they got Reed Patchen inside, and I know they got some good guards around him as well. They're going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. The poor thing for Geneva is this year they lose their home court advantage. They don't get to play any games in Geneva, so they'll be playing their home games all across
Romulus and Waterloo.
We play them in Waterloo. I know they have some games out in Romulus, and so that's unfortunate for them this season. If you're a senior in Geneva, that's too bad. But they're going to have to roll with it.
Zach, what are your thoughts on the East?
Very balanced league. I think anyone in that top 4 or 5 could beat each other on a given night, and as traditionally, the East is you don't have a lot of nights where you can just coast. So I think Penn Yan has the talent. I'll kid you didn't mention Dillon State, but we scrimmaged him last year, and I just thought he's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
He can go inside, he can go outside. The Batten kid's a good player, so I like Penn Yan. I think Mynderse being third is maybe I would probably have them a little higher. I just think they have a lot. I know they lost a lot. They have a lot returning, a lot of dedicated kids that put in a lot of time, and that's good little motivation for the old time boys on your podcast here. So, but yeah, the big question to me in there is how long is Zanelovich out for Wayne? He's a factor for them. He's a difference maker, and they're good without him, but with him they are very, very good. So, just how long is he going to be out? Is it going to be the whole season? Is it going to be half the season? Is it going to be 2 weeks? Who knows? So that's the big X factor.
I do know that he will, because the initial thing was, football's his main sport, so he's not going to want to jeopardize any college issues by playing. But I've heard from Coach Thompson at Wayne that he wants to play basketball. This is his senior year. He loves playing with these guys, and he wants to get back on the court.
How can you not after last year? I mean, you won the first sectional title. You play a heck of a game versus Irondequoit who won the state title. I mean, they were in that game at halftime, and they got everybody back. So it's tough for you. Your best sport to get hurt your senior season, but he's certainly got a future in football, and I don't think he's going to rush back and jeopardize any. He doesn't want to re-injure it, but if he's healthy and he's ready to go, then whenever he's healthy, I'm sure he'll be back on the court. Yeah,
and that's a group that's played a lot of basketball together since 6th, 7th grade, and very similar to our group, what Zach said, with the time they put in the off season. Those guys play, fall ball leagues and the AAU and everything, so I'm sure he'll be back.
They won that sectional title as sophomores. I mean, Zanelovic was a junior, but Thompson, Blankenberg, and Carmichael were sophomores. So now there's only juniors still, those three. And I'll tell you this, Nick Carmichael, one of the most underrated players in all the Wayne Finger Lakes. You don't hear a lot about Nick Carmichael, but this year I think you're going to hear an awful lot about him. I was really impressed. He's going to be tough for all the big guys throughout the East to handle this year. So you look at final thoughts, you look at Wayne. I think even without the Fresh Prince of Ontario, Braden Zanelovic, they're going to still be contending for the title, obviously. I think Newark's, like you said, they're going to have, by this time a month from now, we're going to know the names. It's probably going to be Alejandro Carballo or Logan Moynihan or Jaden Peter. Newark's going to be fine, and that 1-2 punch of Saunders Clements is unlike anybody maybe in all of Section 5 can throw at you in terms of size and athleticism combination there. And then Mynderse, I think, Quentin Richardson is a great player. Caraher and Devin Anderson have both been gym rats working hard their entire careers. Caraher had to miss sectionals last year with mono. He's going to be hungry. So Mynderse has the guards. And guys like Jesse Cabot, and he got a transfer from Franklin, Lewis Carry on. So you got guards, but you lost. You lose Jake Means, so it's Jake Robinson and Keegan Baker and Darren Miller, and these guys are going to be able to step up and battle with Nick Carmichael and Taylor Clements. So that's, to me, what will be interesting. And so it's going to be a great year. And then I do really think that between Penn Yan, Mid Lakes, and Geneva, you're going to get one more team into that mix for for the title. So it'll be fun to watch for sure. So let's kind of move forward now and take a look at the Fingerlakes West real quick here. This was really tough to do because partly geographical. We don't see as much of the West as we do the East or Wayne County. But just looking at rosters, I think it's going to be a real entertaining league. And it was last year, too. You didn't get a lot of, Marcus Whitman got off to that historic start to their season, undefeated through the first 2.5 months of the season. But you look at, I don't know if they were undefeated. They won like 1 million in a row, though. I think, regardless.
They were 17-2, I think, last year. And in the sectionals, they only played 19 games.
Yeah, so it's tough to predict. I know Geithner's back for Bloomfield and Tanner Kimball. Marcus Whitman did lose a lot, but they also returned a lot of guys, and they were one of the most fun teams to watch. Honeoye has some size, and they have John Marble and Yale. Max Yale are seniors. You've probably seen those names a lot. They're seniors now. Dundee brings back Kratsley and some others for Coach Les Miller. Jamar Paisley's gone from HAC, but Xavier Israel's back. And it just should be entertaining night in and night out in the West. I don't know what you guys have any thoughts on what's going on out there.
Well, I like you said, I think the games do become entertaining because you look at the list and there's a couple teams up there that stand out, but anybody can beat anybody else on a given night, and that's always fun to watch. I look for some improvement on the bottom of that league, and we'll see. Bloomfield does bring back a pretty good team, and Whitman, so it'll be fun to watch. The West.
You got Whitman.
Yeah, we open with Whitman Saturday, 5-6 days. So
live on Fingerlakes 1, a little sneak preview before we give
Fingerlakes 1's covering the game. You covering the game yourself? Who's on the game
it's Barnick and Ciatti, actually. But Barnick has injured his knee. Shout out to Dave. Hope he's feeling a little better. So he's tentative, and if he can't, then I'll step in and call it. I'll call 4 games.
And you got all 4 games that day?
If
Lyons and Geneva?
Yeah, we're doing all 4 games on Saturday. Well, Lyons and whoever wins or loses. And it's a tournament for them.
And it's not a tournament for us. We're just playing one game.
Yeah, and so is JD in Newark. So you Bloomfield's on your schedule, Zach. What do you know about the West?
Pretty guard oriented. I just know Bloomfield, the Geithner boy. I think is a pretty good player. Probably the best guard in the West from what I've seen.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know exactly who Whitman lost. I don't follow the West as closely as the other teams.
Kevin Korzeniewski, they lost. He was kind of their big guy.
Like HAC is kind of a wild card for me because again they're kind of that private. Like they could get somebody transfer in that.
Right.
You never know with them. They've been down for a couple years, but when I first started coaching, I think they won sectionals and they got to the finals. So you never know who they're going to have. Talked about the coaching change at Red Jacket with Broderick taking over. I would say probably Naples would be a little higher on the list just based on their recent success. And, Mick's had a pretty good run here the last.
I always got Naples in my top 3 Fingerlakes West, but I didn't get a vote on the West this year. So,
well, I don't know. Just looking at the rosters, they lost over the past couple of years. Mick Salter's team has lost.
Yeah, they lost the swingman this past year.
The tall kid.
He was a good player over Dormer.
Zach Dormer,
yeah.
Right. Final thoughts on the West here. I think any one of those top 4 are legitimate contenders for it. And again, my sleeper this year is Honeoye. They've been down a little bit since they had Ben Kratsley and had a strong team. But they've got a lot of seniors who've been solid contributors for the past 2 or 3 years. And so I look for Honeoye to be resurgent this year. But, Whitman and Bloomfield, Dundee, Honeoye, it could go anyway there in the West. So now to take a look at Wayne County, which I think when you saw the East and the West there, you could argue a lot of balance top to bottom. I really believe that in Wayne County this year that it's going to be a 2-man race, and I think it's going to be phenomenal. I think that Lyons and Clyde both have really, really good teams, and that means twice this year there's going to be just an incredible matchup at the Atwood or maybe the community center in Lyons and in Clyde when these two teams meet. So, looking at it here, I give the early edge to Lyons. Neither team has a ton of size, but tons of talent. And when I say ton of size, they don't have, the big men. They don't have the Cam DeSantos or Jermaine Bogans or in there, or the who was your last big guy?
About 9 years ago, we had somebody that could jump.
Trey.
Trey Johnson.
Yeah, Trey Johnson,
ago.
And the big kid.
Chris P.A. was our big guy when we went to.
Yeah, then he was followed by a guy, I just can't remember the kid's name. The big kid with his curly hair.
Jordan Amell.
Yeah, Jordan Amell.
High flyer.
Yeah, he had some size. He
did.
wasn't afraid to step out.
3-point line though.
Yeah,
he did.
Bunch at times.
But Zach, Justice Smith is now a junior. He's grown. So I say you don't have size inside, but you have the biggest point guard in all the way in Finger Lakes in Smith. Whether or not you use him at the point or off guard now, I will have to wait and see what you do. But tons of talent from a JV team, and you've been saying for past few years that we're getting better and better and better, and working towards when Justice became an upperclassman. So that's now, and then Clyde. This is like. They got 3 Chance brothers on the team. They got Derek Chance, who was the Section 5 MVP in football, and Marcus Chance, and their younger brother, now a freshman.
Yeah, Cam.
So, and they got Drew Carnevale. So, I can't wait. I can't wait for Lions Clyde this year. It's going to be awesome.
Well, Mynderse Clyde, you're not excited about that?
I'm excited about that, but it doesn't bring the same. It doesn't bring the same level of. Crosstown rivalry and intensity as those Lions Clyde games, and so this year I think they're going to be great games. So I'll start out with you, Zach. Analyze your league here. Tell me, we know about Lions and Clyde, but what about some of these other teams?
I think Williamson has the athleticism to to beat anybody. They had a pretty good summer. A lot of guards that can play, pretty athletic big, and like I said, Paul's took them pretty much all over the place, and a couple of their kids play with Wayne actually in some AAU stuff. Gananda has Jaden Castroccini, who's just a great athlete. He had a phenomenal football season, and they don't have a lot of size this year, but on a given night, if they get hot, they're probably going to shoot 25, 30 threes a game would be my opinion. And Sodas to me at 6 is they're big. They were big last year. They lost their point guard.
Danny Johnson?
They have probably on a given night 3-4 guys over 6'2", 6'3" that can play, and it's a tough place to play up there in Sodas, as some teams found out last year. I think they maybe only lost a game at home. Until their sectional game. So Coach Hawk will have them going, but I think the consensus is probably Lions, Clyde, and ER top 3. Red Creek rebuilding. Marion and North Rose. North Rose has Coach Hoyt back, but obviously losing Tyler Norris is
his
big.
Younger brother's on the team though, but that's tough. He's not going to be.
They have some younger kids coming up, but I think that's probably the top 3. I think that Clyde and ER have more seniors than we have.
Right.
In my top rotation, we have 2 freshmen and a sophomore, so. It's been a little bit of an adjustment sometimes for me, just like practice-wise. It's like, oh my God, this kid's a freshman. We have to scale it back a little bit and just remember who I'm coaching after having some of those seniors last year. But we have some talent. Yeah, I think we could be a good team. I think we're going to be better as the year goes around, and that Clyde game's always fun. It's nerve-wracking for some of the kids, and it's a cool environment. I know that everybody looks forward to it.
And you got it marked on your calendar. All these kids are right now when the
absolutely.
schedule comes out.
And I think it's like the second to last game of the year, so it's a great. I like having it late because it gives you a real it's a true sectional atmosphere, so it should be a good league. I think East Rochester, even though Coach Michaels is gone, I think that they could make a case for a top 3. Their JV team was super athletic last year. They bring back 2 of their top 3 guards. I know they lost Coach Michael's son, but their point guard's back, and they had a real good off guard. So they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough, especially in East Rochester. You're doing an ER Sodas game? You're doing one of those games on your? Am I spoiling your preview?
No, we got Sodas once. I think we have ER once or twice. There was in our preliminary schedule I shared with you, we had a mistake where the home teams were mixed up. So, but we'll actually get to that right after.
I know a lot of people talk about the Lions-Clyde rivalry. Obviously, has more history, but ER Granada is pretty crazy.
Sick. Yeah.
It's a lot of them play together in football, and then they go against each other. I always try to scout that game if I can. It's a pretty fun atmosphere.
So there you have it. I mean, then it's going to be another solid year across the board, and we're going to show a lot of that year to you live. And so, why don't we show you right now our live webcast schedule? A couple things before we do about this particular schedule here. I'm about to reveal to you. Towards the end of the season, we're going to flex schedule it. If we have a game late in the season on our schedule that ends up not living up to the height that we thought it might in terms of league standings or sectional implications, and we have a chance to maybe check out another game that does, we're going to make that switch. So that's the only thing that's a little different than years past where we've stuck to our schedule no matter what. I just want to leave it a little open. And so, like, for instance, the last week of the regular season, we have games scheduled on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, back to back to back. We'll do them all if they all mean something, and we think they will. But if they don't, we might take a night off before we head to, sectional play, which can be pretty intense for us. So let's kick it off here right now. Our opening webcast will be next Saturday, a week from yesterday. The Hall of Fame Classic in Waterloo. It'll open up with Mynderse versus Marcus Whitman, a little East-West matchup, and then you'll get the consolation and championship games from the tournament that involves Waterloo, Geneva, Weedsport, and Lyons, and then the nightcap will be Newark against Janesville DeWitt. Buddy Boeheim moved on to prep school last year. We got to see Buddy and interview him, but he's now at prep school before heading up to the Dome to play for his dad. But JD, always a great program, and so we'll be Newark and JD, and that's something that Newark does is they schedule tough early in the season, and it usually pays off for them come postseason. So that's Saturday, December 2nd, next week, starting off at 2:30, and we'll be with you right through 9:30, 10 o'clock that night on Fingerlakes 1. And then after that, we get into the season on Thursday, December 7th, Gananda at Clyde. First Wayne County game of the season for you. And then we move ahead the very next night. There it is, Mynderse Newark, a rematch of the Blue Cross Arena final last year, which Mynderse really shocked Newark by holding them to like 22% shooting or something ridiculous, and really winning that game on the defensive end, capturing the sectional title. So a little rematch in Newark. It's a gym that Mynderse has struggled in the past few years. They've gone in with expectations of hoping to secure a league title by winning on the road at Newark, and they've been unsuccessful. They're going to try it again here on Friday, December 8th. And then we move ahead to Monday, December 11th. The South Seneca girls will face the Mynderse girls in Seneca Falls, and that's been a fun interleague game that we've wanted to cover for the past couple years and haven't been able to. This year we're going to get a look at the new look South Seneca Falcons and Jerry Anderson's Mynderse Lady Blue Devils. Then you go to the West on Thursday, December 14th for Marcus Whitman in Bloomfield. We're thinking that'll be an early battle atop the standings in the West. And then on Wednesday, December 20th, it's a crosstown rivalry game between Mynderse and Waterloo in Waterloo. In years past, that's been a boys-girls doubleheader, but they're not doing that this year, so that'll just be boys. And then this is usually what we kick off our season with. The NYCC tip-off tournament is now the Holiday Classic. It's going to be on December 28th. It's a showcase of four games, I should say. The kicking off with Waterloo and South Seneca at noon, followed by Midlakes and Lyons, which I can't wait for that one. I can't wait to see Bryce Burry and Justice Smith square off. And then Mynderse girls and Red Creek girls, which Red Creek girls are very good, and this should be a very entertaining girls basketball game with two teams that have sectional title potential. between Red Creek and Mynderse. And then Mynderse again, the boys will take on Clyde Savannah, as Corsi mentioned earlier. And I love those crossovers. Fingerlakes East, Wayne County, two of the teams that should be at the top of the standings, squaring off. And Mynderse has played Clyde quite a bit the past couple years, with Mynderse having the advantage. But that should be a wildly entertaining nightcap at the Chiropractic College in Seneca Falls. Then we move into January. There it is, first one at the Atwood or the community center. Is there any talk, Zach, of this one being at the community center, or is it going to be at the Atwood?
No comment.
All right, well, he's keeping it under his hood, but you'll just let us know the night before.
It's not entirely my decision.
Right.
So.
If you had a preference.
If I had a preference?
Yeah, just as a coach.
No comment.
It doesn't really matter to me. The kids, I think, playing at the Atwood. But last year it was pretty fun playing.
It was awesome.
Center, just to have that many people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't really care.
But either way, it's going down. If it's at the Atwood, it's close confines,
it's going to be in
but
Lyons
it's
somewhere.
intense.
It's not going to be at the old community center. It'll either be at the new community center or at the Atwood.
Okay. But Lyons Clyde, it's going to be great. The Route 31 rivalry, session 1. And then we move on Tuesday, January 9th to Midlakes for Wayne versus Midlakes, a Fingerlakes East battle. And then we move for another Fingerlakes East battle, the rematch between Newark and Mynderse. And it always seems like this Newark Mynderse, wherever the scheduling is, gets out of the way early. So by January 19th, you're going to be done playing these guys. But this game could be for the league title, as it has been in the past several years. Newark Mynderse at Arthur L. Baker. And we got Friday, January 26th, Mynderse versus Midlakes. This is a girls-boys doubleheader in Midlakes. Girls will play first, followed by the boys. So you get 2 for 1 here on January 26th. And then on the 30th of January, it's Fingerlakes West girls rivalry night. South Seneca girls versus Romulus. And this should be a really entertaining game. Corsi, I think you called the game last year with Dave Barnick. In Romulus, and
I was just talking to Coach Damon Nicholson about that game yesterday, and Romulus really didn't come to play and match South Seneca's intensity last year. You left the game.
Yeah, I bumped my head on a bleacher. I had to go get stitches.
Yeah, Romulus. I think that's gonna be a great game. Romulus brings back some tough kids. That Mary Ellen Query at the point guard. She's a scrapper. Masteller. I'm missing a couple girls, but South Seneca loses a lot, but they'll bring back a couple Shawless girls, and I think those two teams will be right there at the top.
Mary Ellen Pagorni, there's a few others on Heather Mott's team. So yeah, South Seneca might not be state Final Four good this year, but then again they might. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, great atmosphere for a girls' game in Romulus on January 30th. The very next night, East Rochester at Lyons at the Atwood. So another Wayne County battle that should have league implications. And then look at this one. We're going up to Ontario on February 6th for Mynderse versus Wayne. Another game that could be for the league title. And there's Logan Blankenberg on your screen right there, one of the most prolific scorers in the league. Nobody has as much range as Blankenberg. He can shoot it from half court.
It's funny you talk about, I see something on here on rules changes. I don't know if I missed that in the beginning or not, but one of the big rule changes is coaching boxes. And
oh, yeah?
Yeah, so, you don't see a hash mark on the gyms anymore. That was the old closely guarded line, you'd see on gym floors that's kind of gone away.
Really?
And so anyway, it's really from your bench down to the baseline now is your coaching box. And that was a point of emphasis at our league meeting. And Dave Simmons came in, a longtime official, and talked about it. And actually used the Wayne gym as an example because that gym is so off-centered that Billy Thompson has a huge advantage of being able to get up and down and talk to his team, where the visiting team is really kind of put in the corner. And now that'll kind of change, and they'll have to really pay attention to that one. So I'm interested to see how that goes when we visit Wayne and how that coaching box works. But
I'll have to check
just something to check out when you're up there, Jim.
Okay. Then on the February 8th, Thursday, there it is, the rematch in Clyde, Lyons and Clyde. Late season, like you mentioned, Zach. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be absolutely nuts. February 12th, this is the 3 games in a row where we're going to wait and see. In Mynderse at Penn Yan for the first night. Then on the next one, it's going to be Dundee and Bloomfield. I'm missing one. Or no, the first night. Let me go back. Oh, well.
What's the date on that?
Monday the 12th is Mynderse Penyan.
That's in Mynderse, actually. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm missing. No, that one?
Yeah.
And late season?
February 12th?
Yeah, I thought that was at Penyan.
That's our senior night. I think we switched that game around a little bit.
Oh, well. Thanks for letting me know.
I just did.
Well, either way, hey, that actually makes it legal. But we're excited to get down to Penyan. It's a nice venue. We did the Newark Cornell doubleheader sectional game from Penyan a couple years ago. And then Dundee Bloomfield. I'm missing one in there. There was another game.
What's a flex, right?
Yeah, it's a flex schedule. So
game you like, just hop out on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, there was another game there. It must have been maybe a Wayne County game.
Wayne County's all Wednesday, that last game. I know.
Yeah.
That's our last pod.
Oh, you know what it is? It's Newark Wayne.
Newark Wayne.
Yeah, that Tuesday, Newark plays Wayne. So that's the other game. Sorry, I don't have a pretty graphic for you for it. But
there are some nice graphics in there. I like the pictures you had in the background.
Yeah,
good job there.
Keep it fresh, our graphics team here. So, hey, we are actually, time's running down. It's time to talk power rankings and then get you a look at the schedule for the week ahead. Those familiar with the show know about our Wayne Fingerlakes Power Rankings. Every Sunday we release them. It's a top 10 of all the Wayne Fingerlakes teams. It doesn't matter for anything unless I don't know if the sectional seating committees are looking at it, but I'm pretty sure they're not.
Doesn't matter because it's all point-based.
Yeah,
that's right.
But,
state rankings, maybe. I'm sure they're checking.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The New York State Writers.
But here we go. The preseason power rankings for Fingerlakes 1 Sports here on for 2017-18. And you got Bloomfield coming in at 10, ER at 9, Geneva at 8, and you're going to see this is Fingerlakes East dominated here. Midlake 7, Penyan 6, Lyons and Clyde 4 and 5, with Lyons just ahead of Clyde. I know that right now Drew Carnevale and Derek Chance are probably punching the wall and cursing Fingerlakes 1, but we like Lyons this year, Coach. I'm not trying to jinx you or anything. But do I see a state title in your future?
You've never been accused of having a Lions bias.
I had Lions number 1 on my vote.
I know what you
mean. And Mynderse 3, Newark 2, and Wayne 1. We declared at the end of last year when Wayne won the A2 title that they were going to be number 1 in our preseason power rankings. And despite the injury to Braden Zanelovic, there they are still at number 1 because those 3 juniors. And the others, they round out the roster with a lot of capable guys that are now upperclassmen as well. So, like Bill Thompson's Wayne Eagles. Thoughts, guys, on the initial power rankings?
Well, my first thought is you got to, let's build some suspense up with it next year, okay? So just go
reveal
10.
It one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time, and then 9. Give a little teaser, and 8. And, keep the fans on the edge of their seats. That's my only thought.
No, I agree. We just we're running out of time here.
Just threw it out there for everybody.
Yep, there it is. Look at it, revel in it. Zach, you think you're overrated at 4?
I don't know. We haven't even played a game yet, so it's tough to.
I saw your scrimmage.
You saw the scrimmage. You did play very well in the scrimmage. You didn't see yesterday's scrimmage, so that's all I'm going to say about that, boys.
Haven't seen Clyde play yet. But yeah, like I said, that Clyde Lyons is going to be fantastic. And always the question in my mind a lot of times with these power rankings is the best, and in years past it has always played out this way, that the best team in Wayne County is as good as the best team in the East. That's the way it's played out with our rankings over the past several years, and I think that might be the case this year too. I think I'm really impressed with Lyons, and Derek Chance is a senior. You put him on any roster as a senior, and they're going to be a contender for one of the better teams in the league. So, and can Penyan, Midlakes, or Geneva find their way into the top 5?
We'll see. Friday, right? We play Geneva. So
yep, right off the bat.
You got top 10 power ranking. Maybe Whitman upsets us too, and you stick them right in there.
Yeah, I should have put Whitman in there just for the fact so we could have another top 10 matchup.
If you were at ESPN, you'd probably lose your job this morning. I think looking at your power rankings, though, the only thing that comes to my mind is Wayne is the only team that has no question marks. I know Zanelovic is out, but he'll be back. Depending on how they do without him, I agree with you guys. They're going to do okay without him. But if you go down and you go through, Newark, question marks. Is their backcourt, new coaching staff. Mynderse Academy, you talked about, some losses, key losses last year. We've got deep kids. We always talk about how deep they were last year.
Yeah.
So now it's time for some kids to step up, new coaching staff.
Yeah.
The Lyons. We all know Justice Smith is probably maybe the best player in that top 10 of all the teams,
But a lot of new faces coming up from JVs.
A lot of new faces. So how do those guys blend together, and how does he lead? And then below Lyons, you've got Clyde. And not a lot of question marks with Clyde. They bring everybody back. They bring a lot of players back. They lose quite a bit. So how do they play without some of those kids inside? But we know they got a lot back. And you go down and say the same thing about everybody. Question marks with everyone really except Wayne.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a lot of change, but that's the way it is in high school basketball, right? There a lot of turnover, and we've seen it in the past with certain teams where we thought, they're going to be down because look at what they lost, but we don't get to see a ton of JV games, so sometimes we don't realize that these kids are ready to go. We look at like overall records for JV teams and say, they got a good JV team, or they got, but yeah, you never know until we hit the floor. So, and it started with some games going on early already in Warsaw and Red Creek, but looking at the week ahead here involving Wayne Fingerlakes teams, Tuesday night, Geneva-Gananda, a pretty interesting cross-league matchup there. And then on Wednesday, Hornell's at at Pelmac, Penyan's at Wayland Cohocton. Newark takes on Canandaigua. Newark not afraid to play up in classification. That'll be their back-to-back games against A opponents, both A2 opponents.
That's got some background to it too. The new Canandaigua coach is Chuck Dete, who is a Newark grad. Who actually was on the team that I helped out when I student taught. So he just moved back from, I believe, Pennsylvania, new phys ed teacher, taking over for Mike Broderick at Canandaigua, playing his hometown in his first game. So that'll be fun for a lot of people there, I'm sure, before.
And then Wayne at Pittsford Sutherland, Romulus at Hammondsport, and then on Thursday, Dundee's at Canasteo Greenwood, and then a full slate on Friday. Gananda Midlakes, Gananda playing two straight Fingerlakes East opponents, and Gananda Midlakes have played home and homes for the past couple of years, I think. I kind of like it. Lyons, and this is the Waterloo Hall of Fame Classic. Lyons, Geneva, Weavesport, Waterloo. The winners playing the championship on Saturday, the losers in the consolation game. Lima Christian at Bloomfield, Honeoye Falls Lima at Wayne, Romulus at Marion, Manly, and then HAC's at a tournament in Manlius Pebble Hill. I'm not sure exactly who they're going to be playing. And then the next night on Saturday, you have the Hall of Fame Classic on Fingerlakes 1 Sports. Marcus Whitman and Mynderse kick it off. The consolation game, and then the championship game, and then the nightcap of Janesville DeWitt against Newark, and HAC in action at Manlius Pebble Hill. And so, my goodness, here we go. So, Corsi, good luck in your role as a coach. We'll try to analyze your team with a level head, and I'm going to try to, if I do call a game with that Marcus Whitman game with Ciati, I'm going to try to get him to really critique some of your moves out there.
As well as you should. That's your job, right?
Well, usually we like to hold back, but I think maybe we won't hold back at all this year. If I see something I don't like, I might call it right out.
Get it out there.
But it is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see you, on
the other side.
And I think the program's obviously in great hands with you and Pat, and so who maybe we'll be making another deep run. The Blue Devils will be making another deep run this year with instead of calling play-by-play, you'll be right there accepting the awards.
We'll see. It's a long season.
It is a long season. And Zach, thanks again for stepping up here with us. And as I mentioned before, I really like your team this year. So
thanks.
So I can't wait to see them get out there on the court. And thanks to everybody for joining us here on the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on Fingerlakes 1 TV. We'll be back on Sundays. Won't always be Sunday morning. Sometimes it'll be Sunday night, but we'll let you know each week. Connect with us on Twitter at Fingerlakes1. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Our audio-only podcast is available on iTunes and Stitcher.com. Archived episodes of the podcast are available on fingerlakes1.tv, and this podcast airs weekly on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. on Fingerlakes 1 TV Spectrum Channel 12. So, for, I got to thank Generations Bank, too, our lead title sponsor for our season coverage. They're online at mygembank.com. For Coach Zac Young and Kevin Korzeniewski, I'm Jim Sinicropi. Have a great week, and we'll see you live from the SPO Center in Waterloo for a quadruple header on Saturday.
Another turnover, 3-on-1 the other way. Donovan off the nice pass from Young. And at the horn, Emerson takes it home.
Drives on Rockefeller, up and under. Drives straight to the hole.
Hawkins and the kiss. Off balance, pull up, finds the mark. Tyler Tyson.
6 seconds. Fine, let's fly from deep. And nothing but the bottom of the net. Baseline jumper.
Shot. Stolen, going the other way.
Boom!
With
Five. Oh my! Kaboom!
Get out of the way and let him do his thing.
Can Norris answer yes? Carolina ahead of the pack after the steal. Goes up for the jam. Two-handed slam. Looping it in to LeVar with give and go. It's gone.
It's really special. It's not only a celebration for us, but it's a celebration for our parents and our teammates who've helped us out along the way. Because I've been playing with these girls since the 4th and 5th grade. It's just great that we've made it this far.
Defense and hustling, and we just kind of got it together.
And this year should be fun. We're a lot of young guys coming up this year.
We all came together and said we got to go now, or it could be taken away from us.
Our fans give us a big support. We give us our 100%.
Now we've got numbers. Bounce passes to the big tree. Taylor Clemens who ducks it. Back and forth now with HBT. Swish! Case with a big trifecta. Drives, leaves it.
Big block by Chamberlain.
Big pocket pick. Kevin Franklin slams it home with the right hand. Over to Carmelli. Wide open. Bang! What's this team mean to you?
Everything.
Your teammates?
Everything. I love these girls. We've played together since 5th grade. Five starters have always played together, and the rest, we all love each other. We appreciate each other. We know it's not just about the 5 starters.
That's because it is the rivalry.
Yeah, it's the rivalry.
It always turns out.
We're hanging out off the court. We're like brothers.
And that translates to more success on the court?
Exactly, it really does.
He gives it up, gets it back, 2 seconds, 1 second, shot on the way, short, the Mynderse pulled on him, hold on, they're heading to the big house. And here's a steal by South Seneca. Bounce pass back to Kenyon, lay it up and in, and Mike Green of Cal Balm has seen enough. Here it is, open inside, the shot is blocked. Overtime. Clara Schaefer with a season-saving block.
We're playing with our our hearts out. I can tell you that because we haven't got one. They had one last year.
Well, I think this year we just have a lot more chemistry.
Webcast is such a great atmosphere. Once in a lifetime opportunity to play there.
Beardy's now in the lane on the other end. Scoop shot high off the glass. And Demean will work in that low block. Up against Clemens. Good in the foul.
Never didn't like that call either.
Now dribbles with the right hand to the basket. Right-handed layup for 6 seconds. Rockefeller takes it through. The win. In and out. Geneseo wins.
And here's the steal. McDonald throws it in.
And the reverse is the basket. Working out the Clemens. That's a 3-ball go. No! Layup ahead to Hunter Hawk. Left-handed layup is good. And the foul. With 4 seconds left, the celebration's on for the Mynderse Academy Blue Devils. Section 5, Class B, painted blue. The North Star, Christian Knights, celebrate at mid-court. And South Seneca Lady Falcons have won their second consecutive Class C sectional title. Congratulations to the Lady Falcons and the Mynderse Academy Blue Devils are Section 5 Class B champions in 2017 with a comeback victory. Logan Blankenberg has it, and the celebration is on! They're dancing in the streets of Ontario! The Wayne Eagles, your Class A2 sectional champions! The first sectional title in school history.